What's up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Life's a Garden. We're going to kick things off with our positive, motivational message of the week. And this week, that is determination. Determination is the key factor in achieving our dreams and our goals. If at first you fail, try again. If you get knocked down, stand back up. What doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. When we see roadblocks in our way, if we just let those deter us from the path that we're trying to reach the finish line of, then we have no determination in our success. Determination is the key factor in pushing past those roadblocks. And whether it takes us weeks or months or years in achieving our dreams and achieving our goals, determination is the key that sets you apart in reaching those goals. If you're willing to work on something for years, you are a determined individual. So we want to focus on maintaining that determination. I want you to think about your aspirations in life. All the things that you hope to achieve. And now I want you to focus on achieving those. And maintain that determination. Maintain that fire inside of you. And push forward. So that's the goal this week. Not this week, every week. But just a focus for this week is staying determined. There's a lot of things in life that will deter us and try and push us away and break us down, make sure we and make us doubt ourselves ultimately. But if you remain determined, you can persevere through anything. And I am determined to bring you one hell of an episode this week. So let's go ahead and get right on into it. It's episode 185 of Life's a Garden. What doesn't kill you only makes you stronger, unless you are a mongrel. Welcome back to a brand new episode of Life's a Garden. If you haven't yet, please like, share, subscribe, follow on all platforms. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, anywhere you can get your podcasts. Comment, rate and review. It really helps us out, and we're just trying to grow this garden one weed at a time, so it's much appreciated. Now, if you're watching the video episode this week, you're probably scratching your head. You're probably wondering, what the hell's going on here? What is this outfit? What's this gimmick? What the hell are you doing? Well, it is my pleasure to introduce to you the 2024 Fantasy Football Champion of the World, brother. Oh yeah, it took me 10 years. I've soared with the eagles and I've slithered with the snakes and I've been everywhere in between, but never to the top. Well, I am the cream of the crop, yeah. And the cream always rises to the top. 2024 Fantasy Football Champion in my Fantasy Football League. My God. And I'm not even kidding you when I say I've been playing fantasy football for 10 years. Not only that, I don't have one league. I've got a total of 3. I've probably been playing in this particular league for 10 years, but I've probably been playing in 3. Well, I've been definitely playing in 2 for at least 6 or 7 years. And I've been playing in 3 for a total of 4 years or so. So, over the course of 10 years, I've been in, God, let's see, 20 leagues, something like that. I've played 20 different leagues over the course of 10 seasons of fantasy football. I've finished in second place. I've gotten the silver medal. I've gotten the bronze medal. But never until this year, for the very first time, has your boy achieved gold. And I am the fantasy football champion. Ooh, yeah! And another thing, so it's kind of disappointing in a way. You know, I really wanted to do this gimmick this week. And I did, no joke, I did order a real fantasy football championship belt. And I was praying that it was going to be here this week. Unfortunately, it won't be here until after I was able to record. So, this was the stand-in for that. And I promise you, the second that thing comes in, it's going to be on display right here in the back of the background of the studio. I will prominently display that, and I'll make sure that you all get an up-close personal view of the title belt. We have a little trophy that we do in this league, and which is cool. Hopefully we'll get that. We get a little cash prize every year. You put in. I think after all the years of playing fantasy football, even after winning this, I'm still in the red for all the years of football I've played, because I usually play for. I put in about $40 every year per league. Winner gets about $280, I think. And in my other league, one of my other leagues, I did get second place. I was this close to being the double champ. I almost got double champ status, Conor McGregor status, but it didn't happen, so it's all good. Took home the silver in one of my leagues, so I get double my money in that league. I think it's either money back or double the money. I don't remember. It might be money back because it's a smaller league. But in the main league, we got. It's pretty cool that I got it. That I won in the league I've been in the longest. The one I've been doing for 10 years now. Man, talk about determination. 10 years I've been working on this. Nothing deterred me away. I've only ever wanted to play fantasy football more and more each year. With that brass ring hanging over my head, praying that I might be able to just get a taste. Praying I could get a taste of that brass ring. Well, I wasn't deterred. I stayed strong, yeah. I worked hard, yeah. I read up every year using the magazines, reading up on all the stats, yeah. And what did it get me? Nowhere. But I maintained determination. And finally, the cream rises to the top, yeah. And I am the fantasy football champion, yeah. Finally, I am the defending champion. Going into the year 2025, brother. Nobody's gonna stop me, no. But it was fun. I've always had fun playing fantasy football. I'd play it if I just lost over and over again. It's disappointing to lose for sure, especially when you make the playoffs. And I'm pretty good at making the playoffs. I will admit that. And so here I sit on my throne as the champion. Finally. Took long enough, but here we are. And I'm stoked about it. Speaking of football, though, we got playoff football this week. Now, my Denver Broncos, they didn't make it. And it's all good, you know. We achieved a few goals this year. We beat the Chiefs. We were in the hunt. I don't know if you guys remember. I did make that a goal this year, was to be in the hunt for the playoffs. We were in there for a while. Well, right up until 2 weeks ago, you know. We needed the Chiefs to lose and we needed to win. We did win, but the Chiefs won also, so we effectively were eliminated. That's a hard thing to ask for, when you're asking for a team to lose and you got to win. We had plenty of opportunities this year. We just came up short. Better luck next year. Hopefully things don't completely fall to pieces like they seem to be doing so far. But we're not going to focus on the Broncos. Their time is done. We're going to focus on the other playoff teams. Congratulations all around to every team that worked hard and got their way to the playoffs. Now, real quick, I just want to mention two particular teams, okay? And that is the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Green Bay Packers. While I will give them their kudos, I'm not going to take anything away from them for their hard work and determination to win this year. They did persevere. They fought through some tough times. But I just have to say, what the fuck? How? Why? Why must this happen? These are two of the most decorated franchises in the NFL, in football history. And if anybody out there is a football fan, if you remember, middle of the season, both these teams seemingly had hit a roadblock. They had seemingly been derailed, effectively, from playoff contention. They were both piss poor. One of them had the Steelers had pretty good defense and lackluster offense. The Packers were the opposite. Bad defense and decent offense. And two teams that you see in the playoffs all the time, at least in my lifetime, I've seen these teams constantly in the playoffs. They're like they're two of the what do you call them? Just golden childs of the NFL. And it was almost like the end of an era, finally. Both these teams were going to miss the playoffs. We were going to get fresh blood in there. And somehow, some way, they both eked their way into the playoffs. Now, one thing that both these franchises have in common, in my eyes, are very annoying fan bases. I have a lot of friends that are both Steeler fans and Packer fans, and I love them, and I appreciate them. So I'm not necessarily talking about them in particular. But as a whole, they are a-holes. But, so, hey, in reality, congratulations to those teams because they did fight through adversity, and they somehow came out the other side. Am I happy about it? No. In the end, it is what it is, and we move on. Got a few really cool matchups this week. We got the Chiefs versus the Dolphins. That's going to be a tough one. They're fighting through some weather. The Dolphins coming from sunny Miami all the way to freezing cold Kansas City. The Texans and the I'm just going to look them up because I'm it sounds stupid when I try and remember them off the top of my head. I know the Texans play the Browns. That should be a good matchup. I'm just going to, as I'm talking these through, I'm just going to give my predictions as we go. So we got the Browns versus the Texans. This is in Houston. Houston ended up winning the division. Congrats to them. CJ Stroud, probably going to be Rookie of the Year. As much as I actually really do want to see the Browns win this game, and I think they could, this is going to be a tough game. Houston is coming in with some fire. They got some momentum coming into this. They got the home field advantage. I'm taking the Texans. Dolphins, Chiefs, you know me. I'm pulling for the Dolphins all fucking day. And the weather is really going to be a factor in this. I think it's going to be a very low-scoring game. I think the Chiefs have an advantage with it being at home, dealing with the weather. I'm taking the Miami Dolphins, baby. Let's go. The greatest team on surf. Because you know me, I can't root for the Chiefs. I can't do it. Like, as much as, even though I know they have an advantage, and the Dolphins have not proven yet that they can beat a good team, I can't pick them. I can't root for them. No, it just won't happen. We got Packers at the Cowboys. while the Packers maintain determination and the Cowboys always choke in the playoffs, I just can't picture the Cowboys losing this game. As bad as the Packers defense is and as good as the Cowboys offense is, it's in Dallas. While it would be hilarious to see the Packers win, and I'm probably going to be pulling for the Packers, I got to pick the Cowboys. That's my pick for this week. We got Rams at Lions. Rams are coming in hot. They got a lot of momentum coming into this. Matthew Stafford returns to Detroit, and Jared Goff faces off with his old team. But I'm going Detroit Lions, baby. That's who I'm going for. I really would. It's a Cinderella story to see the Lions be the 3rd seed. I'm pulling for the Lions in the long run. I hope they make it all the way to the Super Bowl. I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm pulling for them. And on Monday night, we got Eagles, Buccaneers. Eagles, Buccaneers. I think Jalen Hurts is out. A.J. Brown is out. It's on the road in Tampa Bay. The Eagles have looked abysmal the last few weeks, so I got to go with Tampa Bay. Now, there is one other game that I didn't mention because it just got flexed to Monday night. So now we got a Monday night doubleheader, and that is the Steelers at the Bills. Now, the reason this game got postponed is because of the absolute atrocious weather that is stomping Buffalo right now. I'm going to take the Bills. Both teams are used to cold weather. I don't think that's going to be a big factor in this. The Bills are looking really hot right now. The weather could play a factor in like turnovers and things like that, so you never know when it comes to games like that. I'm going with the home team. Bills, I think the Bills have a chance to take it all the way. Now, speaking of the cold, my God. It is not only in Buffalo, it's not only in Kansas City, it's right here in Billings, Montana as well. We are looking all across the state of Montana. We're looking at -50, -70. It's unfucking real. My pipes froze in my house. I have been without water for about 24 hours. Now, after this podcast, hopefully the weather is going to shape up and it's going to reach, we're going to get a high of -3 today, it looks like. Maybe -5 if we're lucky. And after the last few days, that's shorts wearing weather. So I'm hoping I can get under my house, thaw out those pipes, and I can have a little bit of water here. It was my mistake. I didn't leave. You're supposed to leave the water dripping a little bit so that doesn't happen. Well, my dumbass didn't do that. So I am without water currently. Yeah. It's getting a little nibbly out there. Yeah. Polar vortex coming in. Yeah. Pipes freezing up. A lot of dead homeless people out there. Yeah. God, you can only imagine, right? I mean, it's sad to say, but dude, with as cold as it is, and as fast as that cold creeped up on us, how could any homeless person prepare for that? They don't have weather apps. They don't know that it's going to be -25. They're going to sleep on the streets, and before they know it, it's -20 degrees. Jesus, man. Like, I've heard hypothermia is actually, like, dying in the cold is actually one of the most peaceful ways to go because your body just kind of shuts down and you just, like, kind of fall asleep. But God, that's just horrible. Like, just to wake up as a popsicle, like, I guess you don't wake up, but to be found as a popsicle, god damn, that's just horrific. Hopefully that's not the reality, but I just can't imagine. It happens every year. People dying on the streets, man. It's pretty sad, it is. But we're dealing with some ungodly cold out there right now. So fuck that. I guess that's all I got to say about that. I hate the cold. I mean, okay, let me rephrase that. I actually don't mind the cold because it's easier to, I've talked about this before. It's easier to warm up than it is to cool down. I would rather have freezing cold than blistering heat. If we're talking the extremes of each end, obviously, like any sane human being, I prefer like 75 with a light breeze, with a little overcast, a light breeze. 75 degrees is beautiful. Obviously, everybody loves that. But if we're talking about the extremes of each end, blistering heat or bitter cold, I'm taking the cold all day. Because that's what we have inside, right? We have the inside for a reason. When you come inside from a hot day, there's something about cooling down that's very difficult. You can throw on layers upon layers and get in front of a fire and warm up very fast. But God, neither of them are fun. They're both miserable as all get out. Walking outside into the cold, it sucks. At the same time, like I said, you can bundle up, you can wear many, many layers and maintain warmth. Whereas you can only take off so many layers of clothes before you're illegally outside, before you're not allowed to even be outside, right? So I think one clearly outdoes the other. And I actually don't mind winter attire, so I'm cool with it. Now, going back to football, I don't want to skip over this. We had a couple of really big coaching retirements this week. Bill Belichick has retired as the Patriots head coach, longest standing head coach currently. I don't think he's not the longest standing of all time, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was with them for 24 years. Damn, that is a very long time. So that means he became the head coach of the New England Patriots when I was 6 years old. That is wild. 6 Super Bowls with that team, the most successful head coach in NFL history. Love him or hate him, trust me, I was never a fan. It was always a pain in the ass to play those guys. I was never a huge fan of the Patriots dynasty, being a Broncos fan and being in the AFC. But just like Tom Brady, I had to tip my hat, give them the respect they deserve. So to Bill Belichick, cheers. Sounds like he's going to stay with the Patriots as an advisor, I think. He might just stay as the GM. It's kind of not clear what his role will be moving forward, if there is any at all. He might just actually go into retirement. Now the other head coach, another big one, Nick Saban for the Alabama Crimson Tide. I believe he was with them for 17 years, and I think he won either 6 or 7 national championships with the Alabama Crimson Tide. The most successful head coach in college football history. And for them to retire the same year, basically the same week, I think they both announced their retirement, is kind of movie-esque. It's almost like you couldn't have written it any better. They've always been looked at as the 2 greatest head coaches in their respective, in the NFL and in the college landscape. So it's pretty picturesque for them to both retire at the same time. So cheers to both those guys. Like I said, and I was never a fan of the Crimson Tide's run and their dynasty that they've maintained. It'll be very, very interesting to see what happens with both those teams moving forward without that leadership at the helm. Alabama's always been a very successful school. The Patriots could be a whole different story. The NFL is always a revolving door as to who's popular and who's, you're always going to have your Steelers and your Cowboys and your Packers and stuff like that. But they all go through the motions. And we've already seen that the Patriots have been pretty abysmal. Without Belichick being the GM, though, that could be pretty dicey if you ask me. So we'll see. We will see what happens. But regardless of all that, cheers to those guys. Congratulations on an epic career for both of them. Legends, future Hall of Famers, absolutely. One more head coaching change that I want to bring up is the Tennessee Titans relieving Mike Vrabel of his duties. That might be one of the dumbest coaching moves this year. Firing a guy who basically, he made that team what they have been over the last 8 to 10 years. I don't know how long he's been a head coach, but it's been about 8 or 10 years. He's been with him for a long time. And what the hell? They fire this guy? It just seems so bizarre. He's going to go on to have a great career somewhere else. And he's probably going to bring Derrick Henry with him. I just had to make quick note of that because it just seems so bizarre. He made them what they are. Let's see. Let's talk about some other news here. Did anybody out there see this plane that the door flew off in mid-flight? I think one of the emergency doors. Alaska Airlines. An emergency door flies off the plane in mid-flight. Passengers sitting right there. This literally is one of my greatest fears. I like an exit row. I really do. People pay extra to sit in the exit row because it has extra leg room. And a door flies off? Now, nobody was seriously hurt. Nobody died from this. I think there was a few passengers that were somewhat injured. Like, I don't know if it was oxygen deficiency or if there was shrapnel or anything like that that may have... I mean, you got to imagine you're up there and once that door comes off. Now, apparently, I was always under the assumption that if a door flew off or there was a hole made in the aircraft, that it causes a vacuum effect and you get sucked out of the plane. That's what I was always like. I know that's maybe a movie thing, but I don't know the physics behind it, but that's what I was always led to believe, was that you would get sucked out. Well, apparently that didn't happen. I know it causes oxygen problems. You get the masks that fall down. You got to use the oxygen masks. But it doesn't apparently cause a vacuum effect. So nobody got sucked out of the plane. Thank God. That would be absolutely horrifying. And so I always thought to myself, well, if that was ever a possibility, why wouldn't they give everybody, they give you the floating device, why wouldn't they just give you parachutes? Now, I know not everybody knows how to, do, skydiving and stuff, but it gives you a better chance of living, right? Rather than just falling to your death. I never understood why they didn't give you parachutes on a plane. Why your seat couldn't just, turn into a parachute or something like that? That makes sense. Why not invest in that? Obviously, you don't see, plane crashes all the time, but God, I've always had a fear of flying. And, I mean, a door falling off is clearly better than a wing falling off or an engine exploding or, anything like that. Any kind of malfunction that would cause any malfunction on a plane. Let's just say that is just horrifying. I would be traumatized for life if anything like that were to happen. So seeing that article just made me absolutely terrified of anything else, of anything in that nature. So just thank God nobody was hurt. I've never flown Alaska Airlines, and not to say I'll never will, because I might have to sometime, you never know. But that doesn't help. One thing I would say is I would be suing the fuck out of that airline if I was on that plane. No doubt about it. Maybe not the airline, but the makers of the plane. Every now and again you see some kind of malfunction with the plane, and it's just not a fun article to read. What else is in the news? We got a couple comedians in the news lately. As of late, I should say. We got Joe Coy and Cat Williams, right? Joe Coy hosted the Academy Awards, right? That's not the Oscars, right? Which one did he host? Because one of them is the Oscars. I think the Academy Awards is the Oscars, right? Is that what this was? Maybe it was. I don't know. Joe Coy. Let me just look it up. I want to make sure I got this right, because there's so many goddamn award shows. I don't know if it might have been the Emmys. It wasn't the Emmys. Joe Coy. Because then there's the People's Choice Award. There's the Golden Globes. Okay, that's what it was. So there's the Academy Awards. That's the one with the Oscars. And there's the Golden Globes. What's the difference between them all? You got me. I have no idea, right? It's a bunch of celebrities patting themselves on the back and sucking each other off about all the shitty stuff that they make over the last few years. They used to be worth giving awards to, but now it don't even matter. But anyway, Joe Coy hosted the Academy Awards and apparently bombed, right? I saw all the jokes that he made, and it seemed like he was getting some laughs. It didn't really seem like he was bombing. It seemed like literally exactly what you would imagine a host at an award show. All the jokes are like, they're softball jokes. Now, ever since Ricky Gervais is the king. He was the king host of the award shows because he used to roast everybody in the crowd. He didn't hold back any punches. I think he did 3 years in a row, right? Well, especially with all the Epstein stuff coming out, and now especially, because I don't think he hosted it last year. And of course not this year. But he didn't host it last year, and then they went and got Joe Coy. It sounds like they asked like 20 different people to host, and they all rejected it. So Joe Coy accepted, probably got a fat paycheck, and he's got all these goofy fucking writers making these softball jokes because, ever since Ricky Gervais just absolutely bodied everybody in the crowd, every celebrity, made beautiful political jokes and just satirical jokes about, like, we got, like I said, the Epstein stuff, talking about how they're going to come up and talk about, he made jokes about how they were going to come up and talk about all their causes and all their charities and things like that, and make political statements that they don't even believe in, and then, and turn around and be hypocrites about all of it, hop in their $1 million jets, all this shit. He nailed it. Well, in today's sensitive culture, the Academy Awards and all the celebrities involved told them, hey, maybe get somebody who's just gonna like make light jokes and not be as fun. They'll be funny still, but not maybe they don't poke fun at us and make really like great observational comedy about how shitty the industry is and how shitty our politics are and the way we like pander to our audiences and things like that. Can we get somebody that's not going to point that out in a very funny, obvious way that everyone else can like make fun of? And so they got Joe Coy. And nothing against Joe Coy. I think he's a great comedian. But he was probably a guy that was like, okay, I'm just going to read these jokes and they're going to be bullshit, not funny jokes that some idiot in the back room wrote. And now he's getting all the flack for it. Well, that doesn't make any sense, Obviously, he just is doing what is asked of him. And go watch any Joe Coy comedy. He's a hilarious guy. But he's doing this corporate gig, basically, and he's being handcuffed into not being able to say what he says. Because Ricky Gervais did exactly that. Ricky Gervais came out and said all the things that everybody was thinking. He nailed it. And they don't like that. So they want to get some... I don't know who they had last year, but clearly he didn't do well enough to come back. You get guys like Jimmy Kimmel to do it, or Jimmy Fallon, or Seth Meyers, any of these like softball guys who are just going to play it safe and not make good jokes. Ricky Gervais is the GOAT. He's the greatest award show host of all time. No surprise that they don't want him there. Like, the one joke that Joe Coy made about Taylor Swift, like this is the one that keeps getting blown up, is this joke about Taylor Swift. That was literally a nothing joke. Honestly, I'm sure she didn't even care, because as he's making the joke, she's like sipping her drink and looking kind of like butthurt about it, I guess, or kind of just like irritated about the joke in general. And she might have been like irritated by the fact that she was the butt of a joke. And really, it wasn't even her that was the butt of the joke. The butt of the joke was the NFL and what cucks they are to always be like showing her on camera. Because I think the joke was the difference between the NFL and the Academy Awards is there's not enough cameras to show Taylor Swift every 5 minutes. Something like that. Which is a good joke. It's a mild joke. It's a dad joke in reality. And really what it comes down to, it doesn't come down to whether Taylor Swift was pissed off about it or not, or whether it fell flat. It's the fact that the Swifties, this fucking like army of basic bitches, is getting pissed off about it. And they're the ones that are tweeting and let me tell you something. Not just Swifties. If you're any individual out there that sees something happening or is upset by something, whether it's in your local grocery store or on an award show, if you see something that irritates you or makes you upset or that you disagree with, and the first thing that you think you need to do is go to Facebook or Twitter or Instagram and voice your opinion about it, you're a fucking loser. You are you're boring. You're a boring person. Or you're an entitled person. You know, there's something wrong with you upstairs. If that's your first instinct, is to go out and not even blast the people. Like, that's an annoying move too, is to go out and like try and ruin somebody's career or talk shit about a business or anything of that nature. If you're going to try and like blast somebody, that's annoying as well. But to think that you're so entitled that everybody needs to know your opinion, you're a fucking loser. You're an entitled loser. If that's your mindset. I don't mind, like, if you want to go bitch about it to your friends or talk shit or be pissed about it, that's fine. I don't care about that. You're more than welcome to feel the way you feel. If something upsets you or irritates you or offends you, that is fine. You're allowed to have those feelings. But to think that you need, and whether or not, you know, you can say whatever you want on social media. That's kind of what it's there for. But it's just funny the people who instantly have to react that way. Because it's always a thought like, you need to have, like, your voice is so important that it must be heard. And that you have all the answers. That is just so annoying. And that pretty much encapsulates all the Swift, not all, but a lot of Swifties. A lot of the Taylor Swift fans. The fan base is very vocal, and they think that their opinion matters, and they think that their voices are like, they must be heard. It's annoying. And so they're out here trying to trash Joe Coy. Now on the other side, you got Cat Williams. I didn't really look into this a whole lot. I can only like talk about what I've heard. So Cat Williams goes on Shannon Sharp's podcast. Of all people, Shannon Sharp. I didn't even know like he had a podcast, to be honest. I know he's had a couple of pretty big guests on. I don't know how new his podcast is or how old it is or whatever. And I love Shannon Sharp. You know, obviously a Broncos fan. Huge Shannon Sharp fan. So nothing against his podcast. I just didn't know he had one. So Cat Williams comes on Shannon Sharp's podcast and basically just starts throwing shade at everybody. He was talking shit about Cedric the Entertainer and Joe Rogan and fucking, I'm missing some big ones. I think he talked shit about Kevin Hart, maybe? Like, he was just trashing everybody. And so they're talking, you know, everybody's like up in arms about this and why he would do this and what's he have to gain from this? Well, have you heard Cat Williams' name in the last 10 years? 10 might be a lot, but have you heard Cat Williams' name in the last, let's say, 3 years? One of the most hilarious, successful comics of all time. Stand-up comedians. I mean, he kind of just disappeared for a while there. I can only imagine doing this is going to bring him a lot of publicity. He probably has a tour out right now. He's going to sell tons of tickets to his tour. If he has a comedy special coming out, everybody's going to be tuning into that. I don't know what's going on with Cat Williams. Nobody does. Now we do, because he did all this. Nobody talks shit about if Drake goes on one of his records and trashes all of the other rappers in the scene, right? Nobody like freaks out about that. They love it. That's a very hip hop move to like diss all the other people in the field. Drake doesn't need to do that. He's one of the most successful hip hop rappers out there. He doesn't need to diss people, yet he does all the time. You know why? It's successful. People like it. It gets him notoriety. It causes these little feuds. And I think it's all for show, to be honest. I think it's all just maybe there's some truth in there, whether it's Drake or Cat Williams. There's probably some truth to what they believe is true. But in the end, it's all just for show. It's all just to like rile people up and make you, you know, it's really just like a I don't know. It's just to boost themselves in a way. Start rivalries, whatever. And it's all kind of just publicity. It's a publicity stunt is what it is. So all that. And in reality, you got to think, I mean, it's, if I'm putting my tinfoil hat on, I don't even think that this is true, but it is kind of funny to think about all these little things, all these little controversies in a way, always get brought up whenever the Epstein stuff starts coming out. Nothing really new in the Epstein cases from last week to this week, not that I'm aware of. Oh, by the way, I should mention, from what I understand, there's some speculation to that midget story with Stephen Hawking that may or may not be true now. It's coming out that might be false. So I don't. It's still funny to imagine either way, but I told it like it was a truth. So I need to mention that may be false. I don't know. I don't. It just sounds like it might be a false story. Now, anyway, yeah, it's just funny how like anytime you get this Epstein stuff starting to get talked about, you always get all these other little like nonsensical stories to distract you from talking about the Epstein thing. How is this Epstein shit not the front page of every paper, the top story on every news site? How is it not? Well, I'll tell you how. They're all involved in it. Corporations, media outlets, celebrities, it's all bound into one unit. If one of them falls, the other one falls. There's money flowing through each and every one of them, politicians and all that shit. There's always some kind of ties, and there's always some kind of incentive to not want to bring one of the others down. They're all in each other's pockets. They all got investments and in money involved and everything, so it's just so obvious. And it's kind of ridiculous. And that's why I love podcasting, to be honest. Podcasting is great because there's really no overlord to dictate how you can speak about things. And I can have a podcast. Joe Blow can have a podcast. Joe Rogan can, you can have the top tier guys with all the influence in the world talking about anything they want, doing their research, just letting you know their opinions on things. And then you got all the way down guys like me. I'm allowed to do that too. And there's nobody out there telling me what I can and can't say, except maybe YouTube, But so far, I've said some fucking wild shit on this thing before. I'm allowed to cuss. I'm allowed to drink booze on the podcast. We've smoked weed on the podcast. We've done some wild shit on here. Put it on YouTube. Nothing came of it. No worries there. So there's really no overlord in that factor. Now, I don't have a huge audience, obviously. I'm not influent, I don't have huge influence, maybe on like 2 or 3 people that listen to this. But it is cool to know. That's why I like podcasting, because there's no corporate overlord. Now, I don't make any money on it either, so maybe if I start getting some bags, bag alert, major bag alert. Maybe if I get some of that, things might change. I might have to change my tune about certain things. I would never, though. I would never. I wouldn't sacrifice my if I was to make money on this, I'd have to partner with somebody who would allow me to say whatever I want, because I could never sacrifice my integrity for, for all that, for money. I want to talk about what I want to talk about. And it's nice because now I don't really need the money. I mean, more money is always good, but let's move on. I feel like I'm just rambling at this point, which is kind of what I always do on this show. Let's move on. Let's turn the page back to a little bit more sports talk. I know we've talked a lot of sports already, but that's what you get when you're dealing with the fantasy football champion. Yeah, we talk sports in this bitch. This week we got a big UFC fight coming up. First pay-per-view of 2024. Sean Strickland versus Dracus du Plessis. Sean Strickland. I don't want to really break down the card too much. It's a decent card, right? I'm gonna break out the phone again. I want to double check to make sure what the if there's any other big fights on this card. I think there's at least there's a couple good ones here. UFC. There's a UFC fight tonight as of the recording of this, but I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about the pay-per-view. Oh yeah, see this card is kind of, it's pretty meh, to be honest with you. Like Arnold Allen versus Ivalov. I don't know how to say his first name for sure. That could be a good fight. I'll probably go with Ivalov on that. Like, Arnold Allen's a great fighter. He's just kind of had a bit of a rocky go at it the last few fights. Chris Curtis, that could be a good fight. Nothing to like write home about, really. Neil Magny versus Mike Malott. You know, Neil Magny's been struggling. Mike Malott's an up-and-coming star. You got Raquel Pennington versus Myra Bueno Silva. This is for the vacant bantamweight title. That's kind of a boring fight. Like, I don't care about... It's hard because Amanda Nunes was the GOAT, and now she's not there. So the only real fight I'm even interested in is Dracus du Plessis versus Sean Strickland Propane, baby. Sean, that should be his new nickname. His nickname's Tarzan. It needs to be Strickland Propane. I don't even really want to talk about the fight as much. Now, I will, of course. I'm rooting for Sean Strickland, man. Sean Strickland's the guy. Dracus du Plessis, he's a good fighter. He shocked us all when he beat Robert Whittaker the last time. But he seems like he's just like a cocky little fuck. There's something about Dracus that I don't like. He's good, he's talented, and you could say the same about Sean. You know, Sean talks a lot of shit. He says some wild stuff. Whether you agree with what he says or not, it's entertaining, you know. It's very Conor-esque, like Conor back in the day, where Conor would say whatever he was on his mind. And, I don't know. It's tough because he does say some controversial shit. And he really talks shit about certain things that you probably shouldn't talk about. And then recently, you know, Dracus came out and said something about Sean being abused as a kid, and he took offense to that. Well, if you can't dish, you got to be able to take it if you're going to dish it, kind of a thing. At the same time, if you haven't seen the clip of him Sean Strickland breaking down on Theo Von's podcast about the abuse that he faced as a child, I mean, he went through some really traumatic shit. And I think that humanizes him more than anything. I think Sean has a hard time expressing himself. I think he has a hard time dealing with emotions. And I think it's a very, like, bully mentality, the way he's acted over the past few years, where he projects his anger and, like, you know, pokes fun at other people for things. It's just a deflection technique. You know, it's something that people do when they've been traumatized for their life. It's a bully mentality. You know, you're facing hardships at home, so you want to project that onto others and make others feel bad. Well, the way he breaks down, man, it just shows to his humanity. And I think that makes him more likable, in my opinion. So I'm rooting for Sean Strickland this weekend. Go, Sean. It's going to be a tough fight. If he backs it up, if he really, you know, if he defends that title, the title, baby, it's all about the gold. Maintain the gold, yeah. Ooh, yeah, we want to repeat as champion, yeah. That's what the goal is next year. If he can maintain it, if he can defend that championship gold, then he proves that it's not a fluke. So I'm rooting for him. Sean Strickland Propane, my guy. We're pulling for you. What else? Oh yeah. Last bit of sports talk here. This is a recent thing, and I just had to bring it up. As a Nuggets fan, Carmelo Anthony just recently came out and made a statement saying that the Denver Nuggets gave Nikola Jokic the number 15 jersey to erase all the accomplishments that he had with the Denver Nuggets. Well, I gotta talk. I gotta say a little something about that. Okay, first of all, Jokic was a second-round draft pick. He was a big, tall, goofy, tubby guy from Serbia. Nobody knew he was gonna be the absolute monster that he is. Maybe somebody did. Whoever drafted him, maybe they knew something nobody did. Well, he ended up being a fucking MVP caliber all-star. Now that's a credit to him. He developed these skills. He made himself great. Nobody knew, and Melo hadn't been on the team for 6-7 years by the time we got Jokic. The Nuggets were a abysmal team after Melo. Now, before I'm not here to shit on Carmelo Anthony. I just think it was an absolutely absurd statement to make. I'm not going to shit on Carmelo Anthony. I love Carmelo Anthony. He was, as a Nuggets fan, he brought us to prominence. You know, we had a good heyday with Dikembe Mutombo and Fat Lever, and you know, we had some good studs back in the day. But we never, you know, we weren't really ever anything. And especially coming into the new era, we needed an identity. Carmelo Anthony brought that. We had Allen Iverson, Carmelo Anthony, Chauncey Billups, Kenyon Martin. We had a squad. And they almost took us to a championship. I think we went to that Western Conference championship and lost to the Lakers. It's, you know, nothing against Melo. Melo definitely was a great Nugget. He brought us to prominence and made us relative for a very long time. He never won MVP. He never won a championship. These are things that Jokic has done. I don't think there's any denying Jokic has done more for the Nuggets than any player. Not just Melo. Any player in Nuggets history. And he continues to do that. He's continuing to be dominant and to be that guy. The idea that the Nuggets gave him the number 15 to erase what Melo did, nothing can erase what you did. That's what history is. This whole thing about Melo being upset about this, literally, he's upset that a guy that wore his same number is having greater success because he was hopeful that his number would be retired with his name attached to it. That number very well probably will be retired. Why can't both their names be attached to it? Why does it have to be this selfish thing? I mean, Jokic will, no matter what, it doesn't matter what number Jokic wears. He will, no matter what, be the face of the franchise. He is now and forever will be the face of the Denver Nuggets because of the accomplishments he made. It doesn't matter what the fucking number he wears is. He could wear no number and he'd still be the best guy forever. It doesn't erase what Melo did for us. I acknowledge what Melo did for us. The idea that they purposefully did this to shun him in some way is absolutely ridiculous. He called it petty that they did it. It's petty of him to think that would... It's selfish. It's very self-involved to even, like, remotely think that. He wanted out of Denver. He pushed himself out of Denver. And I don't blame him for that. He had other... You know, he wanted to try and win a championship. So he did what he thought was best for him. He wanted to make some money. I don't blame him for that at all. But to come back years later and try and say that they were trying to throw shade at him is very self-involved to think that. So, I just had to make mention of that recent development. It's a small thing, but it just seems very ridiculous. Last little bit I wanted to do here, just because it's kind of fun. I don't know what sparked me to think of this and what, you know, even brought this on, but I wrote it down in my notes a while back, and it's just kind of a fun little thing. Every now and again, I like to do rankings or like to do best and worst on a topic. And what I wrote down was best and worst bodily functions. Okay? I think this came when I was I think this idea to me just came when I was sitting at the bar and I sneezed and it was so relieving. So let's start with a sneeze. I put sneeze in the good tier. It's one of the best. It sucks when you have to do it indoor, like you have to do it in your shirt, or you have to because if you're doing it with, you don't want to get boogers all over the place. If you have a napkin or a hanky, great. Sometimes I got to do it in my shirt like that, and then you get bugs on the inside of your shirt. It's not great. It's not a good feeling, but it is so relieving. Now for me, if I'm outside or if I'm, somewhere that I'm allowed to do this, that it's not disgusting to do this, I will straight up open mouth sneeze all over the place. Like, I am a very performative sneezer. I will just blast that shit, and it is the greatest feeling ever. It's just such a relief. If you have a sneeze attack where you're just 8, 9, 10, now it gets annoying. But that very rarely happens. So I'm putting sneeze in my best category. If we're going worst, I'm gonna have to go. I mean, obviously, I think the obvious worst is vomiting, throwing up. Nobody likes to do that. Yes, it can be relieving. It can make you feel better. But there's nothing worse. Like, in the moment, dry heaving sucks. Just the idea of, all of it. There's nothing pleasant about throwing up. So throwing up immediately goes in the worst category. I think, obviously, top tier bodily function is coming, right? Orgasm? I mean, it feels like coming. It's like coming. It's obviously the best. I mean, that's why they call things orgasmic. So we're just going to put that at number 1 on the best tier. Now, coming down on the bottom tier. Oh, this might even be the worst of them all. No, I already said vomiting is the worst, and I stand by that. But hiccuping is horrible. You know what? Actually, I just remembered I had the hiccups. That's what I had when I thought of this idea. Because I just thought about how annoying hiccups are. Hiccups are the most annoying, for sure. While vomiting is the worst, hiccuping is the most annoying. Because they come on spontaneously. You can't control it. You never know what's going to cause it to go off. And they are such a pain in the ass to get rid of. Sometimes you just try drinking water. Sometimes you hold your breath. You do all the things that you think are going to work. And it doesn't work. And you're just trying and trying and trying to relieve yourself of this annoying function. It is relieving when you finally get done with it, but you're just exhausted by the time it's over. You're just finally, thank God, I'm relieved of this hell. That would be part of my punishment in hell, would just be constantly having hiccups all the time and never being able to relieve them. Going on to the best tier, back to some of the best. Fart. Who doesn't love a nice fart? Now, they can be as the deliverer of a fart, it's great. As the if somebody else does it, it can be very, very horrible. Everybody likes the smell of their own fart, but it's not even the smell. I mean, farts are funny. We know that. Farts are hilarious. I don't think there's a person alive that can't laugh at a fart. I'm more thinking the relief. Have you ever had a fart? Well, first of all, you could fart and make other people laugh, so that's a gain. You gain something there. But have you ever had a fart where you just feel that you're gassy, you're bloated, and you let that thing out, and you're just it's just such a relief. Ugh. There's it's a multi-tiered layer of how great a fart can be. Now, a fart can go sideways real quick, and that's not fun. But if you just have a good one, it's great. It could be up there in the top tier for sure. Now this might come as a surprise, coming from me, but I stand by this. Pooping sucks. I hate it. I've never been a fan. It's time consuming. It's like there's no version of taking a shit that's fun. Whether it's diarrhea, obviously the worst, or like, you know, if you're in a place where there's no bathroom and you're prairie dog in it, that is one of the worst, most uncomfortable feelings on earth. That's caused by a shit. You know, I don't like that. There's nothing about shitting that is fun. Now, pissing, on the other hand, is tremendous. Especially as a guy where I can piss anywhere. I can go outside and piss. I can pull off to the side of the road and piss. I can piss in a bottle. All of it's available. The relief you feel from a piss is top level. I don't think I've ever had a shit and been like, man, that was really relieving. I'm so glad. Like, that made me feel so good. Piss, on the other hand. Have you ever had that piss tingle where you're just like, ugh, yeah. Dude, that piss shiver is next level. You gotta love it. Burping, I guess, I put that in the middle somewhere. I don't love it. It's unflattering. But you can feel a little bit of relief sometimes from a burp. I don't find burps very funny. You know, some people find burps funny. I'm not a huge fan of that. What else is there? Yawning. Yawning is very relieving. I like a good yawn. However, I don't like that yawns are contagious, for one. Somebody else's yawns, you yawn. Yawn can be very relieving, but at the same time, it sucks because you're obviously in a tired state of mind. So it's kind of a toss-up on those. Nothing else really coming to mind. Let's see. Bodily function. Crying? Would that count? Crying is kind of one of a toss-up because you're obviously you're either in. Crying can go both ways. You can cry in laughter. You can laughing. Laughing's a bodily function. Top tier. Top tier is laughing. Crying, I'll put in the middle because you can, you're relieving that pain, like you're getting a release, but you're also in pain. Like I said, you can cry while laughing and you can cry tears of joy as well. So it kind of is in the middle. Crying can be in the middle. I don't like crying because it's just, I don't know. There's something about it I just don't like. I'm not a crier. We'll end it with that, I think those are all, I thought that was kind of a fun tier list to make, just kind of a fun little back and forth that I wrote down. So I figured that would be kind of a nice way to end this episode. This championship-worthy episode. Yeah! Thank you all so much for joining this week. Much appreciation. Like I said in the beginning, please like, share, subscribe, follow, rate, and review. Just help grow this garden as much as you can. It's very much appreciated. Stay determined. Determination will push you to the next level. It'll make you a champion if you just remain determined. It'll all happen. Just have that in your soul. Look forward to some playoff football, some UFC fights. It's going to be fun. Stay warm out there. It's chilly. Stay warm. But most importantly, don't forget, life's a garden. Yeah. Dig it! Just gotta keep on keeping on. Positivity. Why don't you talk in the microphone? I got a back right here. Back of my 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 got it. Back of my 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 Life's a garden, dig it.